I think the most poignant image I've ever had about the strength and need for connection I saw a few months ago when I was in Rome. I loved it. I could hardly breathe for the sense of history I was experiencing. We would go into these little antique shops and out and then into another little print shop, art shop. But there was one thing that kept this from being perfect. It was a dog. Every time I would come out of a shop, I would hear a dog barking, yelping, obviously in great distress. I'd go into a shop and I wouldn't hear the dog. Come out of the shop, there's a dog. Why isn't that little dog's need being met? And the buildings are so close, I didn't know if it was an apartment or if it was on the street. But I told Naya, I have got to go find out about the dog. So I start down the street, these cobblestones, watching my steps, and then I come closer and closer and closer to the sounds emanating from a corner of the little street. And I understand the pain of the dog. There's a woman, an elderly woman, sitting on a chair. She had obviously fallen, holding to her temple a white cloth soaked with blood, and the blood running down the side of her face. Obviously, she had fallen. The hovering shop people wanting to help her. She's just sitting there. The dog around and around and around the chair, leaping, yelping, barking, frantic. The little leash trailing along behind him. And we began to gather, those of us who had heard the dog and those of us who were just new to the scene, and we felt awful for her. And then, ultimately, she reached down, holding the blood-stained cloth to this side of her head. She reached down and laboriously picked up the leash. And the dog was quiet. Connection had been reestablished. This little dog was frantic because his mistress was obviously hurt. But when she was being helped, that didn't help his little puppy soul. He was frantic, no connection, and she took the leash, and all was well again. She waved off all intervention from any of us watching, and she, holding the leash of the dog, began making her uncertain way up those cobblestone streets to a place I hoped was home. With tears in my eyes, I watched this scene, and I thought, Marilyn, you know what it feels like to have the leash dropped on you. You know what it feels like to have the connection broken, intentionally or unintentionally. There's a panic. You look like that dog sometimes, but on the inside. You don't bark and yelp in public, but you have barked and yelped inside because of the pain and the hurt and sometimes the frantic despair of abandonment and the dropping of a leash. I treasure my human relationships, my human connections. But there is one connection that beyond a shadow of a doubt, I can trust implicitly it will never, ever be broken, and that is my relationship with God. God will never, ever drop the leash. Never.